This is the Mentor Moments podcast. My name is Brayton Wooters, and I'm joined by my co-host, Dr. Michael Keener. On Mentor Moments, we take the time to interview counseling professionals and personal mentors. We hope you enjoy this episode and keep tuning in.
All right, we have another great episode of Mentor Moments here. We're pretty excited for it. We have Maria Crowley here, and she's going to just, as all our episodes, just tell us a little bit about her background, what makes her passionate about the work that she does. So, Maria, just give our listeners a brief overview of your background and career.
Happy to. It's good to be here with you and share a little bit about some of my work and passion. I have had the opportunity to cover a lot of different things in my career, and I feel like I'm still learning as I go. I started off my counseling career in the world of vocational rehabilitation as a job coach. I think it's a great way to start off. It's a crash course in learning a little bit about a lot of different kinds of disabilities and a lot of different kinds of work. And from there, I became a placement specialist and moved into what was then and is now the lead agency in the state of Alabama, which is the Department of Rehabilitation Services. I worked as a business relations consultant for about 11 years. And that came along with the advent of the Americans with Disabilities Act, which gave me some pretty cool opportunities to do some very unique things. I really liked working with business. I really enjoyed some of the training that I got to do. To this day, I cannot go on a vacation and drive past a business and not wonder what's going on inside. What kind of work do they do? How do they make what they make? That at that point, I got my master's. I got my certification in rehabilitation counseling, and somewhere in there, we started staffing traumatic brain injury cases. We had a TBI team. Those were some really challenging cases. At that point in time, brain injury was kind of new on the disability scene. People were beginning not just to survive brain injury from trauma, but really beginning to thrive, and they really needed a lot of help with work. So we started staffing those cases, and I found it fascinating. And we began a brain injury program. We started a brain injury registry, and I switched gears. I stopped working at the piece of employment and moved to the front end where people were newly injured and were coming home from the hospital, and they weren't being connected to anything. They were just sitting and really decompensating and not really doing much. So we worked on a service linkage program, got people connected back to the community, and had a whole new program established. From there, I became the brain injury program director, still in the same department. I think the Department of Rehab Services in Alabama is a wonder. It's not like any other state. It really has done some incredible things. And I ran that program for a long time. Started working for a little nonprofit called the National Association of State Head Injury Administrators. And they had an annual conference. So I started volunteering for them and hopped onto the board of directors. And lo and behold, fast forward several years, I left state government and started working for them. And now I provide a lot of technical assistance to the folks that do what I used to do. We do a lot of training, and we provide a lot of resources and a lot of support for states to really be able to help people with brain injury do better work, have better infrastructure, and really live the best lives that they can. So that's a long answer to what you asked me, but I've done a lot of things.
No, we love that. I think one of the things that I think Brayton and I like most when we're interviewing people is seeing how they started at X and ended up at Y or Z, and just, okay, how, and just listen to that story and just some of those, I guess, pivotal moments, right? And how you sort of, oh, got some self-efficacy and sort of love what you're doing, but then, okay, I want to do a turn and then kind of keep learning. So, no, that's what we love to hear.
Yeah. Murray, I'm curious, what would you say drove you to like make that change to go all in on brain injury for your career?
It is really of all the populations I ever got to work with, it's not like anything else. Uh, this 3 pound mass of tissue that sits in the top of your head that controls literally everything that you are. And if it is damaged, it affects everything that you are physically, emotionally, cognitively, all potentially at one time, also potentially for the rest of your life. It's an equal opportunity disability, can be a lifelong chronic condition, and it's also often invisible. So, for a really long time, to this day, people don't really understand what kind of impact it can have. And often the person themselves don't understand what kind of impact it has. It can happen at any time, at any age. It can happen more than once. Um, it really packs a punch, and it can be, anywhere in any setting, and it can come out of nowhere and really change a person's life. Um, it doesn't remain the same, but the good news is with the right kinds of supports, most people can do very well. They can go back to something that they were doing before, hopefully, or something similar with very little change in their life. And, that's something that I really like to advocate for. So, who wouldn't love that? It's just fascinating.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's clear. I mean, it's clear that you feel so passionate about this, and I love that we're able to that's showing through the way that you're describing this. So I really appreciate that. Um, Dr. Keener, any other questions for you before we
Well, I guess,
shift?
yeah, before we sort of get to the scripted one, describe sort of what was going on in your career when again, took the change from state to the national. Like, what was, why was that the right time to do it?
Well, I've been with the state a long time, and I had also been volunteering with NASHA for a long time. And we had an opportunity with NASHA to pursue a federal contract to be able to support technical assistance to provide for the states what, at a really small level, we were doing for other states on a larger scale. And we felt like it was fortuitous. We hadn't had an opportunity like that for a long time to be able to go for something like that. So we did. We were able to get it. We subcontract with another entity to be able to provide that support. And the states hadn't had that kind of support in a long time. You've got the Administration for Community Living that provides competitive grant funds to as many states as they can, but it's not a lot of money. And it has to be spread across as many states as possible. So states really need the support, and we do as much as we can to help them build as much as they can with a little bit of money. We just took a leap and went for it, and it really has paid off. That was 5 years ago, and I miss the work that I had, and I miss the people that I used to work for, but it has just been great.
So obviously, our podcast is called Mentor Moments, right? We love to kind of highlight the impact that mentors have had on our lives, both professionally and personally. So when you reflect on your journey, how would you say mentors have impacted that journey for you?
Oh gosh. I've had so many wonderful mentors. Um, some really strong women. I have seen women pull our division out of larger department so we could become our own. I have seen a woman who was a very solid advocate for brain injury appear before Congress and advocate for the need for federal funds. And I don't think without her, we would be where we are today with the Traumatic Brain Injury Act. I've seen so many advocates, on the Hill talk about the need for the Americans with Disabilities Act. That was such a pivotal moment, for me and for so many other people. And I'm so glad I was there for a lot of that. It's just been great to see people be persistent and not afraid to stand out, and make a case for the needs of people with disabilities. I've gotten to see folks take data and make an effective rationale with it, to ask for more funds effectively. And I think a good mentor really knows how to make a solid relationship with people and sustain it. At the end of the day, I think, that makes a lot of difference. To me, that's how mentors have really impacted my life. I've gotten to see that modeled for me, and that's really what I try to do.
Yeah, what great qualities, right? So let me see if I can capture that. So persistence, right? I think was the first one that you said that really, again, kind of the grit, determination, persistence, having a clear vision. Like I just think I do some leadership training too, and it just seems, again, great leaders have that vision, advocacy, being able to create an argument using data, and then the relationship, right? Having good relationship skills. Did I do a good job of summarizing that or capturing that?
You did. Perfect.
Well, how do you sort of staying on that avenue of leadership in our dynamic world, rapidly changing? How do you stay sort of current as a leader? Are there strategies you use to sort of stay in the forefront?
I think it's harder and harder because things change so much more rapidly than they used to, right? I think leaders have to know when to lead and when it's good to step aside and let their team lead them. They don't always have to be at the front. Sometimes you have to let your team, do the leading. I had one of the mentors that I had in mind before used to have this saying in her office on the wall that was something along the lines of, there they go, and I must follow, for I'm their leader, or something like that. And she really adhered to that principle, by allowing us to set the pace a lot. And I think that that really is an effective way to, have a team feel like that they're building something together. I don't know. To me, that is one way to stay relevant because your team is out in the field gathering information from other places, maybe that you're not. I don't know. What do you think, Mike?
Well, when you were saying that, it makes me think sometimes what I say in the classroom, like if we only learn in the classroom and don't take it beyond the walls, we haven't learned. And so to me, that's like, I need the students to kind of help me too, like learn, bring back what's new and go. But I often say, I'm protected in my ivory tower a little bit because the students are doing the real work, right? Because they're working every day. So I guess I hear that. And then to me, I also heard like a leader is instilling autonomy in their people, right? To have to be that, to take the risk, or to, I don't know if I would ever wanted to be director, but my former director, passed away. So that created that void for me to take the leap, right? So how are we creating that next opportunity for the next person to then go further.
Yeah.
Great, and I can tell you have your thinking face on.
Well, I'm
What do
thinking
you
about
think?
I love the idea of meeting the pace of your team. That's something that I'm still working on. Like I'm kind of a go person, and sometimes staying current can sometimes just mean slowing down and meeting your staff where they're at. That's such a counselor, framework of meeting your people where they're at, and that applies to your whole team, not just our clients. Um, shifting gears a little bit, since we're still talking about leadership and working with teams and driving meaningful change in terms of diversity, equity, inclusion. How would you say how can leaders be more effective advocates for these kinds of values in driving that kind of meaningful change?
First of all, I guess, they can model the way again. You can't just talk the talk. You really have to model the way. Um, they, have the task, but also, and responsibility, but also they're the ones that get to say who gets a seat at the table.
Mm,
They get to do the inviting, who has a seat at the table. So, if they're modeling the way, they're making sure that things are equitable and diverse. And it's a lot of work. You can't just invite and sit back and see who shows up. You really have to work at it. And you can't just say, well, nobody came, therefore nobody wants to be here. It gets back to relationship building. You have to put yourself in places and develop relationships, that bear fruit over time. So, people feel comfortable and trust you, to be in that seat at the table. And that it's not just tokenism, that they are in fact wanted and they feel like they have value and that they're going to be an equal participant and that you're making it so that it is equitable.
mm,
It's a lot of work. It's something that we spend a fair amount of time talking with states about how to make sure that they have equity with their state advisory boards and brain injury, getting out into communities and making sure that the people who have brain injury in those communities also have a seat with their advisory boards so that they feel heard and that they have a voice.
Not
you got,
easy. Go ahead, Brayden.
I'm sorry. Well,
I was
well,
trying to read your facial expressions. Go
my
right
brain
ahead.
is rolling. I mean, I'm thinking of a specific example here. We're in the process of trying to hire two new therapists in my office.
Mhm.
And one thing that at Youth in Need, but especially my director is really emphasizing and trying to make happen is that we're hiring a diverse population, that we're making sure that we're representing not only our clients but just like the greater area in our population that we hire, and it's not happening. And I'm thinking about your idea of like inviting, where we're kind of sitting and thinking, well, diverse populations aren't showing up. Why aren't they showing up? Well, because we're not. Maybe there's more inviting that needs to be done. Maybe there's more reach out that needs to be. Hey, we want you specifically, not just, oh, we hope that you show up to our door. We hope that that we left a seat here at the table for you if you show up. But instead, pursuing that. That's one thing that I've just been thinking about from what you said.
Mhm. Meeting people where they are, go to social events where folks are, and do it more than once. Making sure you have things in written materials in all the formats so that things are universally accessible. Um, it takes some work and some thorough review. Invite someone from that community to take a look at the materials that you've got and make sure that, in fact, you're hitting the mark with ensuring that, it's something that looks inviting for somebody to want to do.
Makes me think of Centers for Independent Living with having 51% of the the staff having to have identified as a person with a disability. And I wonder what we could learn, maybe talking with centers for independent living. Okay, so obviously, like you said, it's yes, it was mandated, but now it's the culture of the agency now as well. And again, going back to something you said earlier, Maria, it's not just a tokenism. It's just not, okay, yeah, we have our one person of this or that or whatever that input is valued, the relationship.
Yeah, it's got to be more than checking the box.
Well, I know, Maria, you talked about some really big things. You have your conference coming up. So, tell us about, again, the conference. Tell us about just general initiatives that NASHA puts on. Once we publish this episode, we'll be happy to put a link, in our description so people can get more information. But give us a little bit more about NASHA and what you do.
Okay, I will. This is our 35th annual conference. We move from state to state. We will be in Eugene, Oregon in a couple of weeks. We hit on a variety of topics, all related to brain injury, as you can imagine. That is once a year, always in the fall. In the spring, we generally do some events around Brain Injury Awareness Month, which is March, in conjunction with a lot of advocacy related events. And then sprinkled throughout the year, we do a variety of webinars and workshops and other kinds of training events. I am the Director for Professional Development. That is my official title. So as you can imagine, I am pretty fond of training. Dr. Keener helped us with putting on an ethics workshop, which was part of our 2024 series. All of our trainings sit on our website, which I would be happy to share with you, as well as the link for our upcoming conference and a number of other things that we are involved with. We're planning our 2025 training series. And gosh, I have a number of other resources and tools and written works that we have created. We do have a pretty cool resource I would love to share if we have time.
Yeah, please do.
I mentioned that with good data comes an opportunity to really provide some rationale for more funding, which leads to more programs and supports for the people that we work with. So there, to date, is not really any national prevalence on brain injury. We have some incidents that comes from hospital data, but there's not really any prevalence. There are some tools, some good tools to screen for a history of brain injury. There's one in particular that we love that is evidence-based. Comes to us from the Ohio State University. It is the OSU TBI identification method, OSU TBI ID. It can be used for those who are as young as 10, and it is a great tool to get at a possible history of a brain injury. It is not something that up until about a year and a half ago was online, and states needed a tool that they could use online to see if people had a history of brain injury. There also was no tool online to date that was paired with that to provide anybody with any information. If they had a brain injury, what do we do about that? Tell me more about my own impairment related to this brain injury. So we, with permission, took the screening questionnaire for brain injury that Colorado's program developed, and we have paired them with one another, put them online, and states or programs purchase a subscription. It's a self-administered tool. You can use it in any setting. It takes very little time. And then they get a lot of information by setting on whether or not a person has a brain injury, a history of a brain injury, and then what kind of related impairment comes along with that. We call it the OBIS. It's an online braining screening questionnaire, and each state or program gets their data, compares it against the aggregate, and we've got several different entities that are subscribing to it. With enough entities, we will have enough information to have some national prevalence that we can then use to say, this is what, things look like in domestic violence shelters or juvenile justice settings or substance use programs, women versus men, children versus adults. It's pretty exciting. I know I'm talking a lot about it, but I am very excited about it. And, it's something that we can really dig into, and we're really proud of it. Because brain injury sits in all those places, but we don't have enough to really be able to do anything unless we can, have some numbers to connect to it. So that's on our website too.
My heart is just glowing here a little bit because, I teach assessment, and like I'm almost envisioning like taking that snippet right there and like showing or have the class listen to that, because and even it goes back to sort of being forward thinking. Like, we know we need data. We need data to make decisions. We need data to show why there's a need or to help with funding. But even just to talk about the application of why we need assessments, how we interpret assessments to get it to be where the individuals themselves can learn and again, sort of learn what their needs or help work with their healthcare providers to get that needs. I mean, it was just such an application piece. I think, yeah, we can easily put 2 links on there, one for the general website and one for the assessment tool. And I don't know if there's a version that instructors can introduce to students. I would, we can talk offline about that sometime too. So
there is. It's funny that you should ask. There is. We have an abbreviated assessment tool, and there's an instruction piece to it that any master's level student could take and administer. Be happy to share that.
There we go. Again, more assessment in action right there with getting at levels of assessment, right? When we have a certain skill, we can administer certain levels of assessments. So
with a project of this scope, like the scale of this it sounds huge. I mean, just from what I'm gathering, I mean, this just sounds absolutely massive. I am wondering about, like, were there ever moments in building this, creating this, that you were ever wondering, like, okay, there's too many cooks in the kitchen. How are we managing all of these different players, all of these different people? How do I manage this? Was there help in that? Did you have to change kind of the way that you structured being a leader in building this? Yeah, I guess what were your experiences with all of that?
That has been a team effort for sure. That's a whole NASHA team effort. And we put a lot of thinking into it before it got rolled out, but it was kind of a, and leap kind of thing, but again, this move to NASHA really has given me an opportunity, and the rest of our staff, the ability to make some national impact, and there's just nothing like that for brain injury, at a national level, and, connecting states with each other. It's just been great. We were kind of nervous about rolling that out. But, it's something that we knew it was needed. We were hearing programs asking for it. And, so it's a way to meet a need in a really, good way.
I guess to me, my theme here is like, it's a copyright if I say just do it, but it just seems like take the leap of faith, just do it, right? Like, hey, there's again a need, and maybe sometimes ignorance is bliss, right? You don't know how tough it will be, right? Just do it, and or one step at a time. And
Our brain injury community is great. We have all of these um, research entities through the TBI model systems. There are several of those across the country, all sitting at universities. One of those model systems created the OSU TBI ID, and they were very happy to share that with us. Other model systems are working in other pockets of research. And so, we sit in a very unique place to see that states need help with taking the programs that they have and helping them make things evidence-based. And those research institutions need a way to disseminate the work that they do and put it into practice. So we had just a very giving, sharing community, and we like pulling all of that together. So I get to see that in practice. It's great.
I'm thinking, switching topics slightly, about being part of the Missouri Rehab Association, and sort of cultivating membership and engagement. I'm wondering if you can speak to, are there things that NASHA does to sort of, like maybe introduce people, and then maybe, are there, I don't know, small committees to get a part of, or you talked about volunteering here and there. Like, I guess, do you have any specific techniques on how you cultivate engagement/membership that you could share with the world?
We are a membership organization, so people can join NASHA. We do have several committees, and we have a special interest group that's focused on children and youth. People can be a part of. I, along with our colleague Beth Dauber, co-chair the Training and Education Committee. There's a public policy committee, we have a membership committee, and then there is an advisory council committee. People can help with the work, as much or as little as they want to, and they can receive a lot of resources and information and materials as much as they'd like. We'd be happy to help or have people, jump on as much as they want to.
For what I hear is, get to the website, get to the conference. There is an aspect for you here.
That's right.
It's welcoming. I can attest to that. It's an awesome community. Get involved.
That's right. I can guarantee you, whoever might be listening, whatever setting or population that you work with, there's some brain injury there. So it's good to know about it.
Yep.
Maybe previous experiences that you've had, maybe more current experiences that you've had, maybe in different roles. Just during your entire kind of like life of your career, have there been any big moments, big projects that have made like a big impact on your development as a professional, as a counselor, as a business professional? And what would you say you've learned from those experiences, both successes and I don't want to say mess ups or failures, but moments of maybe barriers where we kind of had a tough time. Yeah, any moments like that that have made a big impact on your life?
That's a toughie. Plenty of failures. And thinking back on working with people with disabilities, I've had a lot of moments where I'm sure I know I have, done all the what not to do's, and in cultivating relationships with business, all of the what not to do's, and in supervising people that were my staff, I've done all the things not to do. I don't know. You just keep forging ahead.
Forging ahead, I think, again, like, I've had a lot of good people tell me, just keep throwing it down the middle, just keep showing up, just keep, and I think that's part of being a helping profession counseling, is sometimes we don't know the impact that we have. And we could have laid the foundation with somebody, and maybe that will blossom years down the road, but that's just keep showing up. And maybe it goes back to what Maria was talking about earlier, persistence and again, fighting the fight, right? Advocacy and making sure voices are heard and walking the walk, not just talking the talk. That's what I'm hearing.
Maybe so. I just stayed on the bus. I have not reached my stop yet. I spent a long time being a squeaky wheel. I went to a lot of meetings where nobody wanted to hear about the plights of people with brain injury. I spent a long time focused on making sure that somebody was paying attention to brain injury and mental health, because for a long time, nobody wanted to talk about that. Nobody wanted to provide services specific to mental health for people with brain injury. And there's a lot of co-occurrence there. I just kept going to meetings and talking about it. And I would see the same people and I would say, you know what I'm going to talk about? I'm going to talk about it again, because there still are no solutions to that. So I don't know. Sometimes that's about, I didn't have any maybe light bulb moments, but I just kept saying the same thing until finally maybe people got tired of listening to me, and we started doing some training, and I just started, pulling people together who did want to listen. And we had some things happen. And over time, over a long time, things started coming together. So I don't know, maybe that is the message. You just stay on the bus, and some of the people that don't want to hear it get off the bus, and other people get on. And
Well, I think another thing that I'm hearing is persistence to the mission. So, like, despite all the mess ups, the one thing that stays consistent is the mission, the purpose behind what we're doing. Okay, I screwed up, but was it for the intention of the mission? Yes. One thing that I love that Dr. Keener said this, the idea of keep showing up, because sometimes I'll hear other therapists say that, and which I love that saying. I think it's super applicable to so many things, and I think that if I had my clients keep showing up, but without an actual mission behind it, then what's the point? So showing up with the mission in mind, and then being persistent on that, that's kind of what I'm hearing. And maybe it isn't just like one impactful moment, but it's that consistency, that compound interest of showing up again and again and again. Dr. Keener, anything?
Well, I was just gonna turn it over to Maria one last time. Is there anything else that you would like to share with us? And is there any other sort of tip or advice you have for sort of new career professionals?
I just feel like I've been really lucky. Sometimes I haven't sought out where I've landed, but I have been open to listening to somebody bring opportunity to me. And it's always led me to the right place. So sometimes you don't find your passion finds you. And sometimes you don't find your people, but boy, they find you. Maybe if, all else fails, you can come join me.
There's a place for us with you. That's our take home.
We would be happy to have you.
I love this. Maria, thank you so much for taking your time to share your knowledge, your expertise, your personality with us. It's been a really, really great time getting to know you and learn more about you.
Well, thank you. This has been fun. Really enjoyed it.